So are we okay to start, Munib?
Yeah, let's
Hello.
start, please.
Sorry, is Rizwan in?
Yeah.
Hello, Rizwan.
We are live now. If you please, Dr. Sausan, start. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for everybody, and welcome for our participants over the world to today's session organized by NISA and empowered by SolarPEC with our distinguishable speakers. Today they will speak about solar perspective and focusing especially into Oman. Our distinguishable speaker will be from Longi Solar, Claire Zeng, and Devi Angel Cristo Valentis. And from Firas Blasmih, it is Dr. Firas, and Dr. Hassan Qasim from Alternative Energy Corporation. And from Yellow Door Energy, we have Anob Isak, and final from Huawei, we have Rizwan Razak, and this session will be moderated by me, myself, Sausan Riyami, from Sultanate of Oman, and I thank MISA to take a focus in our country today. And I represent the Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Innovation, and I'm leader for Renewable Energy Cluster at Egypt. For today's agenda, quite heavy, and I wish it will be a useful session for all of our participants. It's an introduction about our sponsor. We will start with Longi, following up with Huawei. Then we will be an overview about Oman Energy Master Plan 2040, and final roundtable discussion where all our participants are welcome to participate by their Q&A, especially not in the chat, but in a Q&A chat or pillar there at Zoom. Please post all your questions, and our colleagues, the organizer, will pick some of them to be answered by our speaker. There will be a summary over all this objective of today's session. So I will hand to my colleague Claire the floor to present to us the Longi introduction. Please, Claire, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Sultan. Thank you so much. And I'm very honored to participate in this webinar today. And I'm Claire Jen from Longi Solar. I'm in charge of the Middle East and Africa region for the business development manager. And I would like to give you a brief overview of Longi Solar today. So Longi, we established in the year of 2000 and with over 50,000 employees in the world nowadays, with the revenue by 2019 about $5 billion and the net profit of nearly $8 million. So the total shipment of monocrystalline modules in 2020 was over 20 gigawatts and ranked #1 in the world among the others. And the bifacial modules shipment over 10 gigawatts last year, ranked #1 in the world as well. So do you mind to move to the next slide, please? So we are headquartered in Xi'an, China. Currently, we have 9 factories in China and 2 manufacturing bases overseas, one in Malaysia and the other in Vietnam. And we have the marketing, sales, and the warehouses worldwide in Europe, Africa, Australia, and US, etc. The head office of the Middle East and Africa is located in Dubai. And next slide, please. So there are 2 main advantages that distinguish us, Longi, from the other competitors. The first one is that we are the most financially stable and the strongest solar PV manufacturer in the world, with the highest score of all manufacturers. You can see from the Bloomberg NEF report here. And also from the latest PV Tech release, we are the only AAA rated module supplier. Next slide, please, Dr. Sasan. Yes, so this is the first advantage I mentioned. And the other advantage is that we are very proud of the yearly spending of 5 to 7% of our revenue on the R&D. So in the last 8 years, we invested around $8 million on R&D, which is the highest in the industry. And that's why we can offer the best product to our clients. So in terms of the manufacturing, yes, please, next slide. Yes, okay, yeah, that's fine. So in terms of the manufacturing, as you can see that we are the biggest, over 45 gigawatts from the Bloomberg NEF report. And then the next slide is going to show us, yes, the 9 factories we have and 2 manufacturing bases overseas. So which is in total for the capacity over 45 gigawatts. And the last point I would like to address today is in the next slide. So Longi's product is always above the top performers in all the leading tests around the world. And we are very proud to provide the products with the best quality to our clients. So this is about the introduction for the company. Thank you so much, Dr. Sasan. And
you're most welcome, Claire. Now I would love to hand the floor to Rizwan if he's with us. Can someone confirm, please?
Hello, everyone. I think we can move to another one. So Rizwan is still on the way. He has some problem with his network. I'm so sorry.
Okay, so no problem. So in this case, we are finishing our sponsorship session for an brief introduction. And today I would love to bring you to a very brief introduction about Oman Energy Master Plan for our distinguished speaker to zoom in to these factors and to give us their opinion about Oman Master Energy Plan on Oman future, especially on photovoltaic. So first of all, I would love to tell the story of Oman Energy Master Plan 2040, how it started and who started it. It is a form of a workshop that it is held in 2015 in October, and five pillars has been discussed or has been agreed to be on focus. First is energy demand, energy supply, labor, R&D, and water and food nexuses. And to be brief and sharp to the result immediately, they are ended up by 5 recommendations on the first section of this workshop, and then the final report has published in 2016. And I took only 4 pillar out of 5 because they are relative to today's topic, and they are energy supply. As you can see, out of 5 recommendations, the committee or the participants, they are all experts and decision makers from Oman, industry, governmental, and researcher. They are shortening list only top 3. That means if you visited our website and you see this report, you will end up by 10 shorted listed to 5, and then top 3 that need an immediate action. For energy supply, for example, you can see that it is implement a comprehensive energy action plan that it should take place, and everybody almost agree. Half of the participants, or more than half of the participants, agree that this is an immediate step for Oman to take place. And for the second point, that establishing a Ministry of Energy, the good news that after at least 4 years, on last August 2020, we already have our Ministry of Oil and Gas switched to be Ministry for Energy and Minerals, not only limited to energy. That means it's the alternative resources. And finally, establish a small-scale rooftop and hybrid power generation, which you all know about it, that it is Tahm 1 and Tahm 2, that it is hopefully pushing this to take a place. For energy demand side, less than half of the participants and experts vote for the structured removable of subsidies from this electricity sector, and indicating a positive human behavior on national scale. That means to do it in more awareness scale and so on. For R&D, people do not support that as Omani students go for outside Oman or inside Oman. They think this is not the big element. The big element, which it is in R&D to be improved and strengthened here in Oman for R&D related to energy. And when I say energy, it's the transition energy in Oman sector. And they would love to approach it with narrowing the gap between the industry and the academia to establish the efficient R&D partnership. And I would love to elaborate more into this point, because immediately after 2016, 3 main stakeholders, the Research Council, which we are belonging now to the Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Innovation, and beside of Petroleum Development of Oman, which they are already switched to be energy development of Oman, or they have a partner of energy development of Oman. And finally, with the Ministry of Oil and Gas, that is now Ministry of Energy and Minerals, they decided to collaborate together and produce an R&D academia industrial protocol that is ended up to be IJAD, where I am already working on. And that took us the journey 3 years to narrow the gap between the academia and governmental with our industry. So this is at least it's been voted by 70%, and strong action has been taken by government industry. And I'm just showing you as an example. For a labor, I'll go through it. As you can see, from it is a 43% go to the coordination committee with operational mandate that comprise a senior representative from Muhaira and Ministry of Energy, as it's well done. And also there is some mismatch in a skill set between Oman industry and academia. That means the people who are graduating, they are not fitting the industry needs somehow. So this is just a highlight. And if you review since 2015 to 2020, you will see a momentum has been taking place in renewable energy. From a regulation perspective, before it is Authority of Energy of Electricity regulator, and now it has been switched to bigger role to another authority of utilities. And many organization has been merged or has been mandated more into this regard. So we will hope that they will restructure themselves faster and more clear plan will come through them and from the Ministry of Energy and Minerals. So I've been a bit quick because I'm eager to hear more and more from our speakers. And I would like now to open the floor for our distinguishable guests. And hopefully I could start perhaps with you, Dr. Hassan, since you've been living here in Oman, or not living, but you have the experience here in Oman. So I would like to start with you based on your experience and observation here. In your opinion, is in the PV market in Oman is in the level of your of the strategy expectation? Because with 2030 we are being asked within our strategy to achieve 30% of our electricity production from renewable energy. Where do you position photovoltaic? Are we on the right track, or what can enable this market? The floor is yours, Dr. Hassan.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Just to elaborate a little bit on this, Oman actually has a very clear strategy that following the strategy will lead to the achieved target. So in a nutshell, yes, they do have the strategy been set. Nevertheless, the reflection of the adaptation of strategy has been delayed to many different factors. The strategy, in a nutshell, it divided to three main categories as of yet. One, which is the major power plants deployment of mega scale project, which is handled by OPWP. And OPWP been going ahead with their plan, releasing project. They released the first project and it's very close to its completion and COD, which is Everyone project. And then now they are in the second phase, which the release of Manah 1 and Manah 2 phase, which is 1 gigawatt of total scale of projects. There was some delays, but it's, to be frank, it's very acceptable delays due to the current situation and COVID delays, change in the market. So from their perspective, I would say with the expected delay, they're still on time. Now, nevertheless, the other segments, which is mostly in the CNI, which I think my colleague will start on, which is commercial, industrial, and then the small scale distribution market, which is more related to the other entities, private sector enabling, Saham 1, Saham 2 initiative, and any other projects related to different entities, like the hybrid project by RICOs and others. They have not been empowered or enabled in a full scale. And in my opinion, just to summarize and not to go into many details, but the reason for why this initiative has not been taking the full scale, because they started based on a study and a strategy for them to be deployed. Nevertheless, there was a little bit of unreadiness in the market to move toward that direction. For example, when you go to Saham 1, Saham 2 initiative, when they started, Saham 1 and Saham 2 require a certain segment. Only specific segment has taken advantage of them. One of the main reasons is the non-financial viability of this project. And you all know that. Nevertheless, with the current change and announcement of the Sultanate Oman that the tariff is changing, the impression now that Oman is going to that area where they are on the first start to move ahead. So the expectation that Oman will see some movement where the more and the distributed market, the CNI will take off, because the first element that require the movement into that direction is financial viability. And with the new tariff being announced, and it's a matter of the time of implementation that will take, so then we expect that to move on. The second part is the allowance of regulation that will support different kind of schemes of moving into that direction, and that mainly is focused into the regulation. As of yet, we have only Saham 1, Saham 2, and then there was announcement of bilateral agreement that Oman will adopt that. All of these things will be the key enabling factor to start the market to move in. Now, this is from the perspective of financial viability and from the perspective of regulation. The last part will be is the availability of local EPC local. Yeah. So that's the last part, which I believe it's required to connect all the dots, and you have the start off to go in. But I think Oman is in the right track. It's just a matter of time and starting enabling the already been agreed on procedures, plan, and regulation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Firas. I think you are correct. There is a lot of initiatives, and I personally like it, the fact that they are already having at least Ministry of Energy, that they center everything there, and they have also the regulatory authority for public utilization and regulation, and how they will take this seriously, especially from land perspective and other things. Moving to you, Anob Isaac, I think you have much to tell us also about the CNI activity and opportunity here in Oman from your perspective as Yellow Door Energy. How did you find it here in Oman? Tell us more about your experience.
Thank you, Dr. Soswan, and thanks to Dr. Hassan, who has also already touched on some of the key factors on the CNI segment. So Yellow Door Energy, let me start with who we are. So Yellow Door Energy is a leading sustainable energy partner for businesses, basically serving the commercial and industrial customers in the Middle East and also in the South Asia. We help the companies with our solar and energy efficiency solutions to reduce their energy cost, improve power reliability, and lower carbon emissions. And the shareholders of ours are IFC, Mitsui, and Equinor, also Apicorp from Saudi Arabia. So we are very much within the region. We are trying to invest and make the governments realize their dreams through, renewable energy implementation within the country itself. So talking about Oman as a country for us, for Yellow Door Energy, it's a beautiful country to be in. I'll start with that. And also there are a lot of opportunities. The opportunity is immense because there is a surge in the industrial sector, the manufacturing sector itself, which is adding over 10% to the GDP of Oman. So we can imagine the amount of or the participants out there within that sector, that is multinationals, even includes the small and medium enterprises, large local entities are out there. How does the CNI segment can benefit from the initiatives? Dr. Hassan did mention about the Sahim 1 and 2, which had been implemented in 2017, and we have seen a bit of success in there. And I'm pretty sure with also the point what Dr. Hassan made about the increase in tariffs, which is, it is a start for that market to be financially viable for companies like Yellow Door Energy to come in and provide the products and solutions to the companies or the CNI businesses in Oman. For example, the manufacturing companies can obviously, they offer what we put in there for our customers is that we do not ask them to invest anything from their own pockets. So Yellow Door Energy invests in the solar plants there. It builds it, maintains it for a PPA or a lease of 15, 20, 25 years. So, and with that, the customers start benefiting from it. So what I'm trying to say here is there is a great opportunity in Oman for the CNI segment with the rooftop projects and the schemes which has been implemented out there. Once they get started rolling out the new schemes which has been under fabrication with the government and the ministry, I'm pretty sure the entire community out there, the business community, can benefit, small, medium, or large. They can surely benefit from renewables.
Thank you, Anup. And also, you have been mentioned or touch a base with certain important fact. It's about the SME or small enterprises company that could involved in the rooftop solar. Based on your experience here in Oman and SMEs that's who are handling this kind of work, the certification that have been already established here as a basis courses for operator and those who deploy it. Do you think there is a specific, first of all, do we have enough, in your opinion, do we have enough SMEs to be conducted such a job, and how can we enhance or enable this capability building if it's limited, in your opinion?
Yeah, so the DCRP is running, there is a body which is giving the certification or licensing to be in the solar field for a lot of construction companies out there, or APCs, what we call. And I have seen in last couple of years, there is a surge of a lot of homegrown or Omani companies which are entering into the solar space. And with a lot of talents being acquired from all around the world, I have been seeing a surge in there. And I think the market is ready. I would say very optimistically that the market is ready. The opportunity is there with the initiatives taken by the government. The things have been implemented. I like my previous panelist when they said these are times which nobody expected. So the delays have happened, but I strongly believe that very soon Oman will be, their power utility or their grid would be powered by renewable energy to something, and will be able to meet those transitions of what they are expecting by 2020.
Thank you very much, Anup. That's really an input to the session. And moving to you, Christo Valentes, I would love to build on Dr. Hassan's point when he touched a base about the enabler from financial perspective, from regulation and policy perspectives. We would love to hear from your opinion and from your experience, what kind of incentives Oman is missing, for example, based on your observation, because of course, when we are into the country, we think things are moving, or we put some rule and then it doesn't work and we have to change it a little bit. So from your perspective, would you like to comment in this regard?
Absolutely. So thanks, Dr. Sosan, for putting such a great panel together. I think you touched all the correct people, the developers, the stakeholders that have to do with components, and of course, the technical advisors from our side. We from DNV, we are a global technical advisory firm in the energy industry. We have clients across the whole spectrum, oil and gas, renewable energy, and we can provide the full kind of technical advisory along the all kinds of energy-related projects. So you did mention about the incentives, and I think first we have to take a step back and sort of reiterate what Dr. Hassan Qassem mentioned about all these great projects that are in the Sultanate of Oman. I think to add to these projects, I think we also have to mention about the oil and gas companies, the companies that we are, of course, very close to, and that they are sort of moving into a energy transition similar to to the global companies of the world. And this energy transition is reflected by the fact that they will be procuring more renewable energy projects. It has already happened with the big petroleum development company in the Sultanate that has a 100 megawatt solar farm, which is old news, let's say, by now. But we can see that we should be expecting more procurement of renewable energy for their assets. We should be expecting more kind of schemes that will be span out from these oil and gas companies. And the focus of these schemes is to decarbonize through renewable energy, decarbonize through solar, decarbonize through a mix of cleaner energies, solar energy storage, and why not hydrogen, which we will be seeing in the Sultanate of Oman very soon. Regarding the other part of your question about the incentives, I think retail tariffs remain non-cost reflective at the moment. I think Anup Isaac mentioned about that. Maybe we can see a bit more corporate procurement, which is a bit limited, and maybe a scheme regarding corporate PPAs and seeing something similar to that. But I think the outlook is on the upside, and it's looking very promising for the Sultanate of Oman, especially with the bigger projects that Dr. Hassan Qasim mentioned.
Before, just to add something, please, before we move to Dr. Firas, I would like to encourage the participants to send their questions in the Q&A section, please. Better than sending it in the chat section, because it's getting messy there with a lot of hellos. So please send it in the Q&A session so we can answer this later. Thank you. Sorry for interruption.
Thank you, Munif. No problem at all. And would like now to move to one of our senior experts here in the panelist, Dr. Firas. Of course, you know, when we would love to implement solar photovoltaic, there is a great story behind it. And do you think Oman, or at least the GCC country, since they are also very active in solar photovoltaic application, do you think that they are ready to integrate all of this into their system, or do you love to educate us or inform us about the grid in this regard? The floor is yours, actually.
Thank you very much. May I start from the big picture about the electricity in Oman? I would like to say that, I would like to say that the population of Oman in 2020, it was 4.7 million. And the area of Oman is 309 square kilometers. If you are comparing the population and the area of Oman and Jordan, Jordan is 96 square kilometers only, the area, and the population about 11 million. The other figure, the electrification in Oman for the total population is 90%. In urban areas, it's 100%, and in rural areas, it is 92%. The electricity production in Oman is about 32 billion kilowatt hour a year. And the consumption is 28.92 billion kilowatt a year. There is no export, 0 kilowatt hour, no import, 0 kilowatt hour. There is no export, no import from Oman. And the electricity installed generation capacity in Oman is about 8.2 gigawatts. So it's 100, and all the generation is 100% depend on fuels. There is from 8.2, all depend on oil and gas. By 2017, it was 0 renewable energy in Oman. Just 4 years back, nothing renewable energy in Oman. So if you take a neighbor country, for example, Yemen, the population of Yemen is 30 million. And the area of Yemen is about 527,000 square kilometers. And the production, the installed generating capacity in Yemen is only 1.8 gigawatt. So in Oman, the area is 50% of Yemen. The population of Yemen 6 times higher than Oman, and the generation or the installed generation capacity in Yemen 1.8 and in Oman 8.2, a huge difference. And Oman as a country, they have border countries with Saudi Arabia, and it's about 658 kilometers with Saudi, with United Arab Emirates 609 kilometers, with Yemen 294 kilometers. If we look for this picture, taking all this information and taking the analysis of that, we see there is a very high consumption of energy in Oman. Small population, a very high consumption. We have
perhaps.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Perhaps I don't want to cut your speech in this regard, but just when we compare two countries, I don't want to say X and Y country, but perhaps we would love to zoom into where this consumption happens. You have two assumptions: either it is energy efficiency, or either it is due to the huge industry or the free zone that it might having there in Oman. And now the question, are you depending on heat to generate electricity or in gas to generate the electricity as well? So from this perspective, do you think this will make any sense to compare where such consumption goes? Because I'm not sure if this all go to residential area. So it's no longer valid to compare it with the citizen or population. It's more about the industrial area or free zone that is contain large amount of huge ports or something like this. What do you think?
For sure, 100%, it is going for the industrial sector, for sure. Because if you're taking the information about Jordan, for example, population 11 million, area 96,000 square meters, and the installed generating capacity in Jordan is only 5 gigawatts. So in Oman, it's 8.2. That means there is a lot of consumption in the industrial sector, 100%. And the population of Jordan is 2 times more than Oman. So it is not for the residential, it is for the industrial sector, for sure.
We have one question. I know that we did not open the Q&A, but it is referring to one of the statements you have been stated. So I'm just cascading it, is that you have been mentioning the zero renewable energy in Oman in 2017. That is not accurately statement, and perhaps what you have been meant is not a large scale or remarkable scale, but at least there is a small initiative in 2017. So would you like to comment on it for our participants and audience?
Since
they put this as a statement?
In this analysis, we are talking about the large scale projects. We are not considering the home or the small size of projects. We are considering only the high scale projects. So in 2017, there was nothing at all, 100%. Nothing installed and operating and connected to the grid. Let's make it more clear.
Okay. So thank you very much, Dr. Firas. I think you would love to add some point into it, right?
Yeah, honestly, that's why I see that the Oman, they have the opportunities and they have the future for the renewable energy. And if we are taking the master plan of Oman 2040, I think renewable energy should be a major part of that plan, because the whole world is going by maximum by 2050, to have 100% of the generating energy from the renewable energy. So we have to go for the small grid, smart grids, and 100% renewable energy. So you have the future and you have the opportunities. And one of the major points that you have, the very important point, that you can export this energy for the neighbor countries, especially for them.
Okay, that is my question actually. I wanted to ask you is Of course, I will like my colleague, the speaker, to comment on this because I think it's a dynamic debating somehow. And just before we go to other colleagues to comment on it, it's a question mark from your perspective and experience. Do you think the demand of this electricity or the supply or to produce as a source of energy in Oman with the land that we have, that people think the land is an easy issue, but I will guarantee to you it's not 100% true. But let's assume that you could generate that huge amount of energy from renewable energy, photovoltaic specifically. Do you think connecting in integration of electricity system with our GCC country or neighbor country like Emirates or Saudi Arabia, do you have any point to be added in this regard? Because you said integration for the current system and infrastructure, we understand it, but do you think this integration between countries could work, or do you have a proposal for it?
It is very important. It is a major point. We have to consider this as a very strategic point, and it should be part of our plan for all the countries. The interconnection between the countries is helping for exporting and importing the energy from both sides, and for stabilizing the network, the grid of the countries. For example, in Jordan, we are stabilizing the whole grid by the interconnection with Egypt. So it is very important, and it should be part of a strategic plan for the GCC countries plus Yemen plus all neighbor countries. Yes, it should be part of that. Technically, financially, everything. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for your input. I would love one of our speakers to comment on this part. So I will ask perhaps Dr. Hassan, do you want to comment on it?
Sure. I mean, from the perspective of grid availability in Oman, I think, as Dr. Faras has mentioned, the capacity is there. Now, when you want to talk about interconnection requirement, this is an inter-agreement that's already been set by GCC Interconnect Initiative. So all GCC, including Oman, are already interconnected. And there is a bilateral agreement to buy and sell energy based on requests from each country. So from that perspective, adding a source of renewable to dispatch is an extra. Nevertheless, as you are well aware, renewable energy dispatchment is not easily controlled as the regular plants when you go ahead. So having the interconnection and depending on dispatching energy based on the current scheme available for the GCC Interconnect is something that you cannot just purely look at it from the perspective of renewable. So you can't say, oh, I want to sell my 2 gigawatt worth of gigawatt hour worth of renewable energy at the time. This is highly depends on the request time of dispatchment to the other country. The same is happening. So, but from the other perspective, the grid, the main issue usually faced with the grid is grid instability. Nevertheless, with the issue with the high consumption already on Untitled in Oman, and also because of the huge geographical distribution of the grid, which is actually in some areas it's a major issue. If you want to look at the eastern area and Bafar district, and so there is always an issue with energy supply there, and this is basically because it's more allocated to a different private IPP companies there, which is RICO responsible for that. And the demand is not high as there's not much industry happening in that area. Nevertheless, there are many rural villages, fisheries around that area, and it's a heritage area. So there is this geographical distribution. So this geographical requirement and where the energy will be loaded is something that has to be looked at from load distribution of the whole Oman area. Going to the concept of zero and 100% renewable by 2050, this is an initiative that's been highlighted by many neighboring countries. And I would say that this depends not only on renewables. This is actually a topic that you need to enlighten or move into the second stage, which is basically storage. Storage, mix of energy, which is actually, I need to highlight this, maybe many don't know. Oman actually has the spot market enabled. Oman, they don't actually have an IPP as of yet. When you go with OPWP and you sign, actually you're not signing an IPP, you are signing a fixed contract based on the spot market. Because what is happening on the big scale is actually spot market, because Oman has, which is actually a very good thing. Spot market will allow this kind of mix of technology and enabling a control of dispatchment of energy consumption or a load dispatch. So it's something that they are the only one in the GCC actually has done that. It's just that the regulation has not been really initiated. Nevertheless, all big IPPs within OPWP are based on the spot market approach. So having that, I believe they already have done their legwork. They have done a lot of work on this, and that's how they came with this. So to move with a plan of zero energy, I think the main thing is to look at more how energy is distributed, what kind of energy technology in this area need to be looked at, not only renewable. There are many different technologies to look at, and mainly storage, hydrogen, batteries, all of that. And this is just how to move to that direction.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan. You just ring the bell for the next topic that I would love to open. It is actually a story related to the technology and the technology readiness for it. But before I move to Claire, I want to ask Christo Valentis, during your experience on hybrid solar, if there is something you would like to share. I think Tanwir, perhaps you have it. Do you like to share something from your perspective as coming from private sector side?
Absolutely. Please. I was hearing Dr. Firas talking about the interconnection, and then I connected the dots with Dr. Qasim's geographic spread, which is I don't want to call it an issue, but it's it's something that is it is in Oman. It's happening in Oman, and I think the quick answer is that we should also be expecting some sort of a mini grid, a microgrid structure coming into these locations. And the Tanwir example is a very good example where we have 11 sites spread all across Oman, different technologies. And maybe, if you don't mind me saying, maybe it's going to be different tariffs for each of this because they need to accommodate for what is going along. It's a very innovative tender that was rolled out, and it's a tender that attracted a lot of international attention, I would say, and put Oman in the spotlight of the renewable energy transition in the GCC region. So hybrids are key. And it's great talking about interconnections. It's great talking about exporting energy to other countries. But we can also look at this mini grid, this microgrid approach from a research perspective. From a research perspective, the Sultan Qaboos University is already engaged with a microgrid project, a very innovative microgrid project. So I see that this geographic spread could be solved with the injection of more of this kind of microgrids and mini grid smart approach for the Sultanate of Oman.
Yeah, thank you very much. So Anub, I think you are about to comment about something related to storage, right? Perhaps from your experience perspective.
Yeah, so from the storage is the next technology, I would say, with all this different kinds of energy available, or different, renewable and fossil fuel burned energy. I think to create a proper balance within the grid. Today we are addressing solar or renewables can only address the peak load of a particular industry or a nation. So currently the peak load, what we see today in the Middle East is towards the time when there is enough of sun. But tomorrow, if the peak load differs or shifts towards the non-availability of sun, obviously storage is a great solution out there. And what we are seeing in hybrid solutions, there are many areas which are not even connected to the grid. If I highlight on one of the areas in Oman, where some of the power stations are run with diesel generators. So there, the storage comes in as a great opportunity to generate through, a hybrid solution where you can still connect the diesel generators along with solar, and during this daytime, the power grid works on the solar, and the energy is stored over the batteries and can be operated during the night. So these kind of solutions are, which is coming up. And as we all know, the storage prices are dropping. Currently, they are pretty high. Once the demand increases, we are very optimistic and positive that the storage prices are going to come down, and that will enable us to be more independent and be more useful for maximizing the use of renewable energy.
Thank you, Anup, very much. Now, Claire, at least the topic I'm super connected to it is the R&D and the manufacturing perspective, and what we call them here with us is technology provider. From your perspective, maybe you're aware about the largest, maybe in the region, it's the largest solar park. It's a Amin solar park project that they are using bifacial models here in Oman. It is in the south of Oman, mainly like this. And it has been originated by Petroleum Development of Oman. It is one of our largest companies that deal with the petroleum energy. So I know that alternative energy team or renewable energy team are taking place onto it. From your perspective as a technology provider, you mentioned in one of your slides, which I like it as well, that you spend a huge fund to fund the R&D still in BV. So the technology now, I will say it's not cheap, but it's cheaper than before. And you are still spending this amount of fund into R&D. First, the readiness of these models, the advantage of them, and anything special to GCC area for you, please, to comment on it.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Sausan. So as I mentioned also, and you also mentioned that we invest yearly spending of 5 to 7% of our revenue to the R&D. And that's why we can provide the best quality and the best product to our clients. So in this region, the Middle East and Africa region, so we actually, most of the time we will be talking about the solar PV utility scale projects. And in this kind of project, and in the project that you mentioned in Oman, and actually the technology we're using, it's the bifacial modules. So the bifacial modules can provide the lowest LCOE for sure. And the most suitable technology that I have to say for the solar project in this region is the modules that can provide the lowest LCOE, and the which is the high efficiency bifacial modules. So high efficiency bifacial module, it means that the more light that we receive from the rear side of the bifacial module, the more bifacial gain we will have. And the delta between these monofacial modules and the bifacial modules has decreased by investing 5% more for the bifacial modules that you can expect to gain from like 15 to 20% more power in the Middle East region. and with this kind of dry sand ground. So our bifacial module, longest bifacial module, we use double glass for the higher reliability against transparent backsheets, which is specifically needed and required in the Middle East region. So just to summarize that, our bifacial module provide low attenuation, high rear side energy, and also additional albedo gain. So, we provide the lowest LCOE with this high efficiency bifacial module and the BEX technology for utility scale, industrial, and CNI project in Oman. And actually, we are very keen to be involved in the upcoming project in Oman, and we are very open, for various long-term partnerships. Yeah.
Indeed, it will be a pleasure to see you very active like other partners. You know that we are welcoming many people, so just try it and we try to help you. We as a judge usually try to make this be enabling, and our focusing usually it's an R&D perspective and to technology transfer and knowledge transfer, and also improving the technology itself sometimes. What I wanted to say is to cascade one question to you, Claire. It's not about the model itself. It's about the comparison. When you say solar, it could be a photovoltaic depending on electricity, or it depends on solar thermal. To store the solar thermal, they have their specific technique. The good of electricity that you could also store it in batteries and other stuff. So the question was: is there any R&D consider the storage devices in your strategy or in your studies, or even in longy interest? Are you interested on storage, or just you are focusing on modulars?
Well, currently we focus on the modules only, and also we are the biggest wafer manufacturer with 75 gigawatt at the moment. But the others opportunity and possibility, we are open for that.
Okay, if you are open into it, is it in a lab scale or it is in demonstration scale? I mean, is it wish scale actually? Do you mean outdoor scale to put it as a pilot into the ground, or do you still develop it on R&D level on lab scale?
Well, for the modules, it's based on the lab scale, and the others, I will have to, I have to check with the team, in China. Yeah, because
okay.
you're exploring.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, to the detail. Thank you very much. So returning back to Christopher Valentes, actually, I would like you, from your perspective as providing advices, consultancy, and so on. In our Gulf country, we do not have a certification yet to verify, or we're just relying on that technology is working in our climate, and we are doing it that. So we might have a regulation and policy, but standardization, certification on those topics, do you think it is something might enable or encourage the investor or technology provider to come to Oman easier, or maybe you have some different perspective to the advisors?
Great question, Dr. Sosan. I think this is a very common topic that we pick up as technical advisors in the solar industry, as a nascent industry, I would say, an industry that has standardization and certification, but it might be not as widespread. There are standards, of course. Standardization happens at the global level. It's driven by the industry, and it's driven by the fact that you have assets that have been on site or have been built to last for many years. I would say that over the last couple of years, there's been many strides forward in how the industry is being put together, either with IC standards, either with international technical advisors like ourselves, because we do have a certification business unit, of course, certifying certain solar PV systems, and with some very known projects in the region. But I do agree with you. A bit of more standardization would help. And I should not only say that this is only the technical element. We have seen attempts by the legal industry to put together open solar contracts. We have seen attempts through all the kind of stakeholders, legal, financial, technical, to put together some sort of a approach to avoid any mismatch. And I think this will be for the benefit not only for Oman, but for the whole region, and not only for the whole industry, I would say. The short answer is yes. Any form of standardization will attract more developers. I think for the case of the MANA projects that Dr. Hassan mentioned, the 8 shortlisters were international developers. So I don't think that they're scared of Oman, or they're not scared of the solar industry that Oman is trying to put together. But any more confidence would help and will be beneficial, I would say. I think you're on mute, Dr. Sosan.
Sorry. What is your advice regarding to the solar storage system? In my perspective, it might become a challenge because you do not want to use the photovoltaic to let it go with the grid sometimes, and you want to store it in certain region for certain purpose. And this was a big comparison between electricity and solar thermal perspective. Do you think from technology readiness, or from the perspective, even also when you store it in battery and so on, is it environmentally clean? All these questions, do you think more R&D, in your perspective, more R&D should be applied to the storage itself, or to the whole cycle of the technology itself? So what do you think?
I think the energy storage is a bit of a Pandora's box for the renewable energy experts. Let's say it's something that will push the industry to even more. It will allow for better and innovative models. But whenever we talk about energy storage, we focus a bit too much on the technology, which is great. And we all should agree that we can do better with more R&D for energy storage. We can do better with more R&D for battery. But we also need to understand that there's a raft of business models that come at the back of energy storage. And these business models would come from different tenders, from different secondary market tenders, from frequency response kind of energy storage installations that could come later on. But all this is for the future. I think putting together a solid set of renewable energy assets in the Sultanate, installing them, and then understanding the requirements of the grid, like how Dr. Firas very kindly mentioned about the capacities and the different geographical spreads, then energy storage is going to be coming into the mix. R&D, always welcome, but also the business side of things is something that we should be considering.
Yeah. So maybe Dr. Firas, you want to comment in this point from greater perspective?
Yes, I would like again to highlight the major 3 points for the future for Oman. The first one is the interconnection with the other countries, GCC countries, and I would like to highlight especially with Yemen, because that will open the door for the exporting the energy to that country, and for the GCC countries for stabilizing the grid, the network of Oman. The second thing, the infrastructure. We have to invest in the infrastructure as much as possible to be ready to have by 2040, 2050, 100% from renewable energy. And of course, that will open the door for the storage system. So interconnection, infrastructure to be ready for the 100% renewable energy. And that will open the door for the third item is the storage system. So these very important strategic major points for the Oman grid or the Oman network. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Firas, for your advice. Back to you, Anobs. I just capture one question from this Q&A pillar there, and perhaps you could help on answering. In your opinion, what do you think is solar photovoltaic businesses or project could enable or open or create a new job for our people here in Oman? Let's assume it is Omanization. But I would like to add one element from my perspective is regarding to this development in 40IR, you know, and many things could be done automated now. I will not say from installation, but for example, you can take it from cleaning perspective. They are still developing those kind of robotics. You can control the system far away from the site. You don't need to be in the site, not like other technology. You need 1 or 2 person. You don't need 100% to be hired in this. And during the installation, it is just a 1 minute, and 1 month fixing is another 1 year. So from this perspective, do you think really it's gonna create a new job for people, or it will just create it for a certain number and other things need to be improved, or knowledge need to be learned, or new curriculum need to be taught in our university? What do you think, Anab?
Yeah, it's a good question, Dr. Safsan, and I can start by saying with some experience where in Dubai itself, when it started in 2015, the net metering policy, there were just few companies which had the ability to execute this level of projects. And if I can quote from the local utilities approval chart, I think over 150, 160 companies have come across in last 5 years. That is it just in Dubai. So I'm saying Oman has, as you rightly mentioned, there are 2 phases to it. Solar, especially when you talk about solar or renewable energy, in particularly in solar, this is a long-term kind of a mechanism. You know, install it for 5 years or 6 years. The life of these panels, as Claire mentioned, those technologies, they are here to stay for 25, 30 years. So all the installations, starting from the installation time to the operation time, this for any company, maybe Yellow Door or anybody coming into Oman or operating in Oman, they need the local expertise. And I think from that perspective, this is going to raise a lot of opportunities within Oman on the employment side of it. You did highlight on the education sector. I think the renewable energy or sustainability side of curriculum could be added into the education that will prepare these engineers who can be part in the design and operation of it. The second part, what you mentioned about remote monitoring and things like that. Yes, there are technologies, which is again in, on the utility scale, I can tell you that some of the technologies like robotic cleaning can be implemented, but rooftop solar, or when we say distributed solar, it has not yet been ready. However, still we need people there. We need people to have, monitor the system, maintenance of it. It is a major challenge to maintain these plants in the arid situations. We always say that a lot of sunlight, but the challenge in the countries where we are is the heat. And so these heat is inversely proportional to the generation. Though we have light, but heat actually reduces it. The more the heat, it will reduce the generation. So we need proper monitoring in ground. So let me conclude by saying, yes, and we have seen with our own experience how when a country moves into that phase of bringing in renewables, it opens up many doors for new, the students, the existing SMEs, the construction companies to divert their business towards renewables in installation and in O&M.
Thank you very much, Anab. Unfortunately, this time is flying, and I personally enjoy this. Yeah.
May I have one comment, please?
Yeah, please go ahead.
If you want real development in the country, you have to have distributed systems, small systems, microgrid, grid systems distributed in all country. Only if you need the real development, not focusing in one mega scale projects or giga scale projects in one area. This giga scale projects can be distributed into 10 cities, and you will open jobs for 10 different locations. And you will go, we develop the areas. It's economical, it is not only economical side. You have to consider the social side. You have to consider the developments for every single area. You have to consider the whole country. We have to look for the big picture, not for the small size or for the small pictures. Big pictures, microgrids, small grids, smart grids, and distributed. It's generation, distribution, everything. By that, you will develop the whole country, not by developing only the Muscat, for example, and we will forget about all the other cities. So we have, if we want really to develop the country, open jobs in every single city. So we have to go for the small systems, small grids, microgrids, smart grids, and distributed everywhere.
Thank you, Dr. Firas, for this comment. Of course, thank you. It's a nice advice indeed. Unfortunately, as I said, the time is flying, but for our distinguished speaker, I will give 1 minute for each to conclude or to send a message for all our audience for today's session. I will start with you, Dr. Hassan.
Thank you, Susan. Oman is ready to move in. I think everything is there. And just as a final highlight on what Dr. Faraz said, I think it's really important to understand, especially on the, I know Oman has a high concept, approach and concept on Omanization.
Omanization.
Okay? Omanization. It's a tongue twist. So the main thing you need to understand, which is something all strategy development look at, there is a job available or job development when you start a project, and there's something else that they don't talk about, which is job sustainability over time for the specific segment. When you start big mega project, this is important. It does help the energy segment, but from the job availability, you will have huge segment of jobs available for the duration of the project, and then your execution will be very, very minimal. On the other hand, creating SMEs is what really drive the industry. And because of that, SMEs are built on small projects and not big projects. Therefore, when you go to microgrid, distributed system, that's where you create the job. And jobs are not really, in this industry, it's not only for installation O&M. There's the management, there's the designing, there's many different segments. So there's a lot of opportunity for... Exactly, there's a lot of opportunity for that. So what I'm saying is, Oman is going there. I personally look forward to opening the market from the perspective of CNI, the distributed market, rooftop, as much as I look at it.
You are most welcome to Oman, always, right?
It's my second country,
It could be always your second country, once this corona finished, please feel free to travel safely. And Christo Valentis, maybe 1 minute, a message for our audience.
Perfect. Yes, Dr. Sosan. So I appreciate all the comments that came through. I think reiterating the future is positive. We have one of the biggest operational bifacial sites in the region. It's sitting in Oman. There's a lot of newer projects. There's the Mana coming in with the 1 gigawatt. So the numbers talk on its own. Maybe seeing a bit more movement on the CNI space, and of course, very welcoming to see the decarbonization of the big oil and gas giants that are sitting in Oman and their strategy. And I think everything is going to fall into the correct place much sooner than we expect, I would say.
Thank you very much. Now, Claire, please. Your turn. 1 minute. Claire, are you with us? Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
1 minute, please.
So 1 minute, very limited. So as I mentioned, we are the most financially stable ones, and we invest the most in the R&D, and we're the largest manufacturer for the wafer and modules. And I've been in the Middle East for like 4 years. In Saudi and in Dubai now, and I never visit Oman. And we are very keen to be involved in the Oman projects.
Okay, please, first destination will be Egypt for you, then you will be open to many industries. As we are already connected to more than 62 clients here in Oman. So feel free to contact us and we will serve you indeed. Dr. Firas, a 1 minute message, please. To emphasize in the grid, maybe.
I have visited many countries. I have been in Oman 2 times. I have lived in Saudi Arabia for 10 years. But the second country after Jordan that I would love to live in is Oman.
Okay, so our population will increase soon. So Dr. Hassan, I have no problem in this.
I am telling that for everybody that really,
thank you very
I have
much.
visited many countries in the world, but Oman has, I have a very good impression, and I have memories that I will never forget about the countries, about the education, about the population, how they are very polite, how they are very, very educated, a clean country, everything is perfect, you know.
And there is much to learn, and there is much to do to achieve His Majesty vision, an Oman vision, Oman 2040, and we are open to Jordan as well to learn as much as we can. So Anup, would you like to conclude by 1 minute?
Yeah, so I'm in line with what Dr. Hassan said and Dr. Firas said, that Oman is ready, I think, and the technology, solutions, experience, I would say the learning, the machine learning, everything is ready around it. We just need to get in there. There's a great opportunity, as Dr. Hassan said, the economies should be focusing on the small areas or the small projects that, as I said earlier too, that creates a lot of employment, a lot of opportunities, and that will also help us. And we are ready as Yellow Door Energy. We are already there. We have a few projects ongoing. So we have very soon we'll be able to share some success stories of Oman. And we are willing to work alongside the local government to support them to achieve those visions of 2040.
Thank you very much. And we are going to look forward to hear nice news from.
And maybe maybe a bit more sort of commercial endeavor from the private banks and the export credit agencies, because at the end of the day, we also need to see some ingenious funding for these projects to come into place. So it's worth mentioning that that should be welcome too.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think valid points to be taken in account. Some is under action already. Some need to be discussed, and some need to be agreed from governmental side or empowered from the governmental side. But at least as a lesson learned, solar photovoltaic is an old technology, and it has been deployed, and now it's a time to deploy it in a larger scale or small scale, or to make it visible. We all agree that photovoltaic will play a role in renewable energy technology, and it will play a role in net zero emission, hopefully in the future. With this sentence, I would like again to thank the 2 sponsors, Huawei and Longi, and especially I would like to extend my thanks to my colleague Hind for organizing the whole session between the panelists and the moderator myself, and also special thanks though to Munif from SolarPack for his great support and help during the Q&A session, and for all this arrangement. For you all participants, for all our audience over the world, thank you again for your interest to hear our session. And again, thank you for my distinguished fellow speaker. Have a nice day, and thank you very much. Goodbye.